Minister, I want to ask you if you will increase the current income limits to qualify for social housing immediately. Given the ongoing rising inflation and difficulties being experienced in meeting the rising costs of rent within the current income limits, and you will make a statement on the matter.
Mr. Burke.
Thank you, Cahill, and I thank Deputy McGrath for his question. Applications for housing support are assessed by the relevant local authority in accordance with the eligibility and need criteria set down in Section 20 of the Housing Miscellaneous Provision Act 2009 and the associated social housing assessment regulations. The regulations prescribe maximum net income limits for each local authority in different bands according to each area concerned, with income being defined and assessed according to a standard household means policy. The income bands and the authority area assigned to each were based on an assessment of income needed to provide for a household's basic needs, plus a comparative analysis of the local authority rent cost of housing accommodation in the country. A blanket increase of €5,000 was introduced prior to the new system coming into operation. Housing for All, a new housing plan for Ireland, was published in September 2021, as you know, and is part of a broad suite of social housing reforms committed to reviewing income eligibility for housing. The review, which examined the efficiency of the current branding model and income limits applicable to local authorities, has been completed, and Minister O'Brien is currently considering its findings and expects to make a decision shortly on the recommendations. Thank you, Carla.
Minister, there is a serious disconnect in respect of the current income limits to qualify for social housing. Tipperary County Council cap is 25,000 for a single person and 27,500 for an average family of 2 adults and 2 children. And this hasn't been reviewed since 2011. Given the huge increase in the rents and the massive rates of inflation and cost of living, it is simply not any way realistic to expect a family of 2 adults and 2 children to be expected to meet their housing needs at all and living expenses on an income of 27,500. It's just not possible. Will you, Minister, review this? And you said you've done a review, but when are we going to see the review? It's causing considerable problem, especially when we see the average 4-bedroom house in the County Tipperary costing approximately $1,200 per month for rent, meaning that a family with an income of 28,000 is expected to pay 51% of their income towards the rent of their property. This is just not possible, and it's inhumane, and it shouldn't be accepted. So this review is eagerly awaited.
Thanks, everybody. Mr. Burke.
Thank you, Cahill, and I hear Deputy McGrath's points that he has made, and that's why the Department and Minister O'Brien has initiated a review under Housing for All, and it's also taken into the context of the wider global interventions we're making in housing, from the record level of social housing construction to the affordability measures from direct purchase and shared equity, and our new cost rental model, which will be a game changer in terms of giving people secure tenure below the market rental rate. So all those interventions have to be judged with this review, because when you see in terms of the scale of Housing for All, €4 billion multi-annual funding going into constructing record level of housing, Minister O'Brien has to base that on essentially the increasing rents, which are capped by the new interventions and a number of pieces of legislation that we brought in to protect renters right through the COVID pandemic to ensure that they would not be evicted. So the review will be judged on shortly. Thank you.
Mr. Fine Supplementary.
Minister, I noticed some of the NGOs comes up with the acronyms Housing for All. That's a totally inappropriate name. In the face of significant increases in rent and cross-county Tipperary, as well as considerable, I said, increase in the cost of living, the income limits are just wholly inappropriate. I've said that. I reiterate, I'm calling on the Minister to act here as a matter of urgency. We keep talking about aspirations and good intentions, but they won't house people, and people cannot afford the rent or cannot get help. According to daft.ie, just 16 properties available to rent in the entire county of Tipperary, from Carrick-on-Suir up to Nara. It's a huge county, and indeed only 4 properties in Clonmella, my own town of Clonmella. There are 3,521 people on an approved housing list waiting for housing in Tipperary, and rents, as I said, are just not, they can't get places to rent, and it's a huge problem, and it needs to be dealt with. The national average listed rent now is €980 €108, up 61% from its lowest rate. And the property rental crisis is now at its worst. My office and every other doctor's office is overrun with people, and we can't do anything for them. And you have a strategy, housing for all.
Thanks, Deputy.
Housing for who, I say, or when? Can I get me faster gone? I'm in. Can I get me faster gone? Talk.
Mr. Burke.
Thank you, Ciarán. I think it is a very appropriate name, Housing for All, because in the context of a whole societal approach, it's very important that you have streams to have record level of social housing, affordable housing, and also private housing, because there are many people in society too who are unable, unfortunately, to reach the threshold to get a mortgage, and that's why we have a record level of affordable housing investment to meet that need. So I think in terms of Housing for All, it is the most appropriate name of a document to capture society and respond to the needs of a demographic change in society that I can ever see, and the investment is backed up behind it. And as I said, this review has been completed and Minister O'Brien is currently assessing it and will make decisions in the context of the record levels of affordable housing that is being provided to the state and social housing, and that's the way the document will be judged on. Thank you, Ciarán.
Thanks very much, Minister.